Hi, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec Podcast, where I'll help you create teams worth leading because life's too short to lead mediocre teams. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and coach to tech execs worldwide, and today our subject is chronic reaction. Before starting, I've got a quick disclaimer. I'm sorry if you hear background noises, specifically kids being noisy. Usually when I record this along this time, kids are in school, but today there is a strike. And there was literally a missile strike like an hour earlier. The kids are a bit still off from having the alarm and everything. So I apologize for any background noise, but let's try to keep this centered on business, and I'll try to be quick. Chronic reaction. This is something that I have been thinking a lot about lately because I've noticed this pattern in some of my client calls, and also I've been talking to a few VPs of engineering recently about some changes in the industry, and I saw the same sort of pattern. Chronic reaction is about being reactive. It's about those people who, at face value, ostensibly you look at what they do and you're thinking, yeah, I would have reacted the same. There's an issue in the company, they react to it. They handle it like what you should handle. Like someone has an outage, they react quickly, make sure it's mitigated, have the postmortems. Their reactions are all the right reactions. The CEO wants to change something, they react with the right process. Someone wants to quit, they react properly, consider how to change the organization around to make it less painful, whatever. These people, when they react, they do the right thing. So again, face value, look at it, you're thinking, oh, good, I'm guessing we're all doing quite well, right? Wrong. My problem is that sometimes we get into chronic reaction. That's all we do. We just react. We get really good at reacting, but with time, we stop thinking big. We think way too small because our thinking is always like some sort of greedy algorithm limited to the next step ahead of us. There's an issue, I'm going to react to it. Another issue, I'm going to react to it. There's no vision. There's no grand scheme of things. We just, rolling with the punches. And a big part of being a leader is knowing how to roll with the punches. But if that's all you do, you're never going to win the fight. You're just going to keep getting a bunch more punches. So what I want you to consider is whether you're in your comfort zone, which might not be really comfortable, but it's what you're used to right now, which is just doing the regular dance. Something happens, I react. Something happens, I react. I do the right things when issues happen, but when are you the first to act? When are you not reacting, but being more proactive? And I know that we hear this word a lot. Yeah, I'm proactive, they're proactive. And sometimes it gets so diluted you don't even know what it means. What would it mean for you to be a proactive leader? Let's make it as simple as possible. When I ask you if you're being proactive, look back at the last 2, 3, 4 months and consider how many initiatives were started by your organization without them being a prior demand, specifically being prescribed by the business, by product, and you actually acted upon those. So, for example, you knew that investing in some AI capabilities would pay off even before product have materialized, what these would mean for your product, for the business, and therefore your people now have the right expertise and they're pushing it and they're showing product what to do. Reacting is knowing that someone quits, I'm gonna shuffle things around in the organization. Being proactive is actually spending the time to think, what are the weak points in my organization? Who are the people that are likely to quit? Who are the people that if they quit, it's going to be a problem? How can I start making the teams more robust right now For example, by how we distribute the work, by how we share knowledge, by how we onboard new people so that they're not just privy to a specific project, but actually get a wider access in the early phases. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud here, but the difference between reacting and being proactive is realizing that you can take steps before you're forced to do so. You can decide, you can sit down and think what actually is the right way of doing things. How should my organization behave? What is the right future state for it? And then start working backwards and think, how can we get there one step at a time? And you can do that. This is not rocket science. This is actually very basic, and yet, and if you've been listening to my episodes, if you've been reading my articles, you know that I'm saying this a lot. A lot of leaders have this part missing in their leadership role. They don't really take the lead. They don't sit down to think, what do we need to do? They're just trying to wing it. And this will actually be okay for many for long periods. But with just winging it, you usually don't get to a position that's good enough, that's really going to shine, that's going to make a dent in the company's direction. And if you just do that, you usually can have an okay career. I know a lot of people who have done these 2-year stints in a bunch of companies doing just okay. And yet, what they leave in their wake is a bunch of companies that then were worse off, even if they didn't register that immediately, because during that period, during those 2 years there, even if they reacted to everything fine, they did not use the time to create the right fundamentals, to have a foundation that will actually improve and make the team even better, so that when they leave, the company can actually achieve more than it used to before. The company is now better off. If you're just trying to keep things as they are, if whenever something happens, you react to get it back to where it was, this sort of game is a lose-lose, because you will never get to a state where you raise the bar, and your best hope here is just to maintain things as they were. And there is an inflation, not just an economic one, but for every organization, for every culture you create in a company, for every company, there's a sort of inflation. You can't just keep doing the same thing and think it will stay the same. We churn, people churn, your clients churn, the market changes. We actually have to always be improving to really just keep the inflated value the same. And you have to work even harder if you want to gain real improvements over time. So if all you do is react to get things back to where they were, give or take, you're just okay with the status quo, you're okay with the inflation. That means that with time, you're actually getting an organization that's less and less and less impactful. If we want to turn that around, you need to start thinking, what will I do? How will I do something of substance here? How will I take the reins, take the initiative, and decide what to do? And again, this is not rocket science. And you can start with very small initiatives, because even these compound over time. If you have 6 of these initiatives, each one taking 2 months, and you do those to completion and then move on to the next, you're going to have 6 of these a year. And these actually bring value. Even if you improve the company bit by bit by bit with time, this becomes a lot more substantial, definitely more than if you were just to do nothing and keep reacting. And this is what I want you to take away today. How can you start being more of a genuine leader, taking the lead? And how can you stop with the chronic reactions? Start doing things that you decide are important instead of waiting to be compelled to act. And if you need help getting there, hey, I'm here, and you've got my email in the show notes. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you haven't yet, and I really can't imagine why, check out my newsletter, which is free. The link is in the show notes, and every week it comes out with this podcast, a video, an article, a bunch of stuff. So check that out, and I'll be here next week. Ciao.